Hi, everyone. So welcome to the Shopware Developer Day from my side, too. My name is Christian. I'm from the Shopware agency dasistweb, and I'm also the guy being involved in projects such as Shopware, such as the Molly Payments plugins, and a couple of more. So today I'm here because I love the community. I love the spirit, I love the people, I love the whole ambition of every developer out there every single day. So tell me, what would be a perfect shopware? One that serves all your needs by simply configuring features? Or just one that has no bugs, probably? Or maybe one that does not need any development anymore? Or maybe one that does not need us anymore? So compared to Shopware 5, wouldn't you rather go with a shopware that has kind of less features, but really gives you the flexibility when it comes to develop the things that you really need for your e-commerce system in a clean and smooth way? So for me, a perfect shopware that serves all the needs of everyone just can never exist. There's always something missing for someone out there. So that kind of pure perfection can never be reached. So yes, it might not be perfect for everyone. But still, there are so many amazing and outstanding Shopware 6 shops already, developed by amazing and outstanding companies, agencies, and developers from our community. So today I'm here because I'd love to guide you through a story. It's a story from the community, for the community. It's a story about one of the most complex Shopware 6 shops speaking on the requirements of our client. And although it is just a fictional shop, everything that I do tell you today is coming from real-world projects. So I'll tell you how some of our smart developers from our community tackled these requirements and solved these problems to tell you what you can do with Shopware 6 if you know how to do it. Welcome to my talk. Chapter 1, the kickoff. It's Wednesday, 9 a.m. We're in the office and our customer is approaching for a planned kickoff. So a team of very skilled developers is already waiting. So our storyteller, who's also our project manager for today, is welcoming our new guests. The client tells us they sell quite a lot of goods to many B2B customers since around 20 years. They have a fully working Shopware 5 shop, but really need to switch over to Shopware 6, because as you know, end of life is coming, right? So our superhero, Edin, jumps in. So confident in his words, he's telling our team, I can do the migration. I've just done that a couple of times, and I can tell, although the Shopware migration tool has many great features, there's more we need to consider for such a huge project. Adjusting inputs for categories, products, additional quality checks. No worries, I can do that. Team's pretty happy because, as you know, who does really like to do migration, let's be honest. So the second feature we have is about individual B2B prices. So our client has many rules and things allowed to all these individual prices. So we have a huge B2B shop, a migration, and individual prices. The third very unique and interesting feature is about adding a bidding system. It's a bidding system based on a separate B2C sales channel for close-up products, so just like eBay. So as Johan got asked if that is possible in Shopware 6, he pauses and simply continues with a, yeah, we can do that. So we know how Shopware works with custom products. If we do it in such a way that huge and complex feature might not even be a big deal. And we don't need to change Shopware itself a lot. So we have a huge B2B shop, a migration, individual B2B prices, and a bidding system based on a separate B2C sales channels for closer products. And maybe unexpected things, as in every project. Chapter 2, the migration. So the core element when it comes to a migration is that it's not only about moving data from A to B. It's about creating a serious and reliable process that shifts data. So Aidin asks our client, what should be migrated? A question sounding so confusing and weird at first, but as you probably know, it's very important as soon as our task starts. Or as Shakespeare's Hamlet once told us, to migrate, or not to migrate. That is the question. Whether this is noble in the mind to suffer from the slings and arrows of entailing problems, or to take arms against the code of troubles, and by opposing, end them and refactor. So that so the weird thing is that small, tiny word suffer led indeed to some pain points of a current system. So it's now all about if we should go with that path of fear, that path of rebuilding things to get a better solution for our client in the end. Or more specific, our client has currently products based on variants. So this, however, leads to circumstances, problems with his business. So Aidin and the client now discuss if they should change something. And if they should, now is the time to come while doing the migration. So then more and more they talk, they figure out that it might be the best to switch from variants back to simple products. This also gives Aidin the option to do the migration, truncate the products and categories, and re-import the new product catalog afterwards. But what about existing orders? Aren't those linked to the old product IDs? Yes. But Aidin has a solution. He can write a script. So, no joke. So that script is used to look up data and update data based on what we have. And those are the product numbers because product IDs will change. So more specific, he creates a PHP script that has two database connections. The Shopware 5 one is used to go and scan through the old orders, look up the products, and get the product numbers. The product numbers are then used to the Shopware 6 database, where the new product IDs are being looked up by using the product numbers and also referenced in the line items in the equivalent Shopware 6 orders. And then we have the option to have new migrated data and completely new products. So Aidin tells us we should save that script. But why should we save the script? Because of Aidin's 3-step migration. So he tells our client, the first migration is done at the very beginning of our project. So it helps us to get an idea of what will come and also gets us first data to develop with. The second migration is done during the project. It helps us to verify if we are still on track or if anything unexpected did happen. And the third and last migration is done before go live to get rid of some test data and get the latest Shopware 5 data in our new Shopware 6 database. Migration done. Chapter 3, individual B2B prices. The client's ERP system calculates individual prices for every customer. So it's Uwe who tells us that we might have a problem because that works for 10 customers. But with that huge amount of customers, performance might be tricky. Is your ERP system even capable of handling such a traffic? He also asks if it's even necessary to have those data on a daily basis? Or way more important, where do we need individual prices? Listing, product detail page, or just in the cart? So the cart's easy. Uwe can just do a cart processor. But when it comes to listing, we do have an active HTTP cache. So that means if customer A leads to the creation of a new cache, we don't want customer B to see the price of customer A. Uwe has a small hack for this. So what he does, he only renders placeholders for prices inside the Twig templates. He also adds a product number as well as a fallback price. So let's just pause that for a bit. In Shopware 6, there is an event called before send response event, and that one's also fired on cache templates. So yes, it's used for cache prices, and yes, it means that we can modify cached templates before they are being returned to the requesting visitor. Uwe creates an event or uses an event before send response to hook into these cached templates. He then applies a regular expression to extract the product number and sends the product number to the ERP system that calculates the individual price and returns it. The returned individual price is then placed into our cache template by simply replacing the proper parts in our HTML and DOM. And then we have a combination of cached templates and live data. And yes, you can use that for all kinds of different types of data, not just the prices. Martin, performance buddy of Uwe, adds another important note to our chapter. So we have successfully reused cache templates. But what about all these traffics to the ERP system? Uwe has an idea, a recommendation for everyone in this room and back home. So sometimes it might be just enough and good to go with a simple approach, because it might be enough. So what he recommends, he says we use the Symfony object cache persisted inside Redis for this kind of on-demand caching. That means we have a request, product number onto ERP, get the calculated price, and save it inside Redis, and then return the template. The next time we get a request for that price, we figure out that it's already inside Redis and reuse this one until cache is expired, obviously, and avoid another call to the ERP system. And then we have quite an awesome and easy solution for individual prices with HTTP cache and quite a good of performance. Chapter 4, something new. So it's now Thursday, 10 a.m. Nothing special. Project management got a call from a client. It's about a new requirement. So yes, it's a last-minute one, but happens, right? So they want us to help with a document management and support ticketing tool. So they are building those two new systems to give their B2B customers access to support tickets as well as product manuals and other things. So the actual question is if we can reuse our Shopware user logins for those systems. Joshua tells us that Shopware 6 is indeed capable of doing such a thing once you know how to do this. So he asks the clients about the basic flows, creates a concept about the planned user journey, which he totally recommends to everyone in here if you are working with different systems, decentralized systems. Because one of the things to consider, in our case, it's luckily working, can all these servers and applications talk to each other? Or do we have troubles and problems with the militarized zones or anything like that? So, what to migrate, integrate? The support ticketing system uses SAML, while the document management system uses OpenID Connect. Joshua explains to the client that OpenID Connect is an identity layer on top of OAuth 2.0. So it helps you, or third-party applications, to verify an end user and also obtain basic user information. So that means our document management tool can ask Shopware about a user and get the basic user information. Shopware is now an identity provider. OpenID Connect is a claim-based authentication. That means there are statements, so-called claims, about a user that someone has just made for whatever reason. So that could be a name, an email, or even a profile picture. There is a document returned with a list of claims. And as you can imagine, this data needs to be accurate. That's why our third-party application relies on the data from the identity provider. And that's the reason why it's also signed. So we have a document with a list of claims and a valid signature. The document is returned as a JSON or JSON Web Token, or JWT, in case you've ever seen it somewhere, hopefully. So, our end user signs into our identity provider and gets the JWT, the token, in the browser. The token is then passed on with those requests to the third-party application. That one communicates with our identity provider, and then, very important, if everything is working fine, signs the user into its own application, into its own database, into its own application session. So this is how OpenID Connect works. But what about SAML? Let's keep it short for today. It's almost the same. So instead of tokens, we have assertions, and it's based on XML, so that's fine. So after our client workshop, Joshua starts to create a proof of concept, minimalistic approach, just to see if it works. So he figures out that the best way to integrate is with some kind of third integration option. So we have Storefront. We have Store API on top of his head, which is kind of funny because it's headless. And we have an identity provider API. And the great thing with Shopware is that can be done very easily by simply technically implemented on storefront routes, a specific URL pattern, and then we have all that handshaking, user registration, signing in. So we fast forward, we're now in the staging system. Things happen, but it's working good. Until we realize a problem. So imagine we are on our support management system. There's the button, Login with Shopware. You click on it, redirect, and you're signed in. All good. Let's start on the other side. We're now in Shopware. We're signed in, and there's the top menu navigation item, Go to Support tool. We click on it, redirect it, and there's the button. Isn't it weird? It's still the button, Login with Shopware. One would expect we're already signed in. And that's when Joshua gets a bit panicked, stressed. Why? Because he realizes he needs to create a custom extension for the support ticketing system that he's never touched before in a programming language, Ruby, that he doesn't know either, in a huge, very expensive project. And that happens if you don't pay attention to details when writing concepts. But we have to deal with it. Luckily, Joshua is a pretty smart guy. So he finds a very good solution by just adding 2 lines of JavaScript. So what it does, there is an if condition that just makes sure to figure out if we are coming from Shopware in that specific scenario. So just an additional query parameter added to our redirect. The second one just invokes the button to click on the login with Shopware. The end user behavior is that you don't really see anything weird, and we finally have what we need, the full user experience without learning Ruby in a night. Well done, Joshua. Chapter 5, migration, part 2. Can you remember Eden and this 3-step migration? It's time for a second migration. So we are in the middle of the project, executing migration, executing a script, and starting to test things, looking good. But what about those product pictures? They unfortunately doesn't seem to fit our new template, because the customer has rectangle-based shaped product pictures. We need square ones. Options. We could ask the client to redo thousands of product pictures, and he's very happy to hear that, I think. Not. The other option is to, together with the client, do a workshop, redoing the templates, so that we can use the rectangle-shaped product pictures, and that's what we did. Why I'm telling you that short story? Because that additional migration in between helped to figure out these problems in a phase that's just not critical for the project. Chapter 6, bidding system. Johan is already working on a special B2C feature. So the basic idea is to not touch Shopware a lot. Most of the time, it really pays off if you kind of stick to the original one. So bidding works like this. A customer's bidding has now the highest bid, would win the product. Then we have customer B with placing an even higher bid and would win the product. The basic idea now is to show customer A about him or her not being the one with the highest bid anymore by not forcing to refresh the browsers, but with an auto-refreshing system. So Johan starts to create custom entities. He creates a customer bid entity that's basically used as some kind of temporary placeholder for all these bids that happen while bidding for a specific product is active. As soon as a customer wins a product, that final bid is then moved to a more persistent table and entity in the database. But what about that auto-refreshing stuff? Johan uses Merkur. Merkur is an open solution for real-time communications. It's fast, it's reliable, and it helps to add streaming and asynchronous capabilities to APIs. That means you can publish an event, and everyone who subscribes to that event is automatically notified and updated as soon as our event is being triggered. So after setting up Merkur, you only need to add some JavaScript magic. So if a customer opens the product detail page, a JavaScript object is being created that communicates and has a connection to Merkur and subscribes to a specific channel. That channel is about that product. So every product where bidding is possible has an active channel. As soon as anything happens to that channel, our JavaScript object is being notified so we can do anything on the product detail page. So one of the things would be that our client wants us to show the last 10 highest bids. An easy option would be to extend the payload of the Merkur event with the information about the 10 highest bids. So as soon as our JavaScript object is updated, we already have the payload. So there's no additional server-side request or anything necessary. We can just simply add that to the HTML or DOM because we already have it. Bidding itself, that's a PHP-based route, starts an bidding algorithm, and if that is all good and the customer has the highest bid, that one also communicates to Merkur, triggers the event, which then triggers all our product detail pages to be updated. So, a complex feature. Nobody has ever seen that in Shopware probably, but very easy because we only have a few data changes like custom entities, custom fields, and for real-time communications, Merkur as well as JavaScript. Unfortunately, there's still a bug. So what happens? While we were testing, what we usually would have is a bid with 15 euros, next highest one would be 20, and next one would be 25. But unfortunately, we have two same 20 euro bids with a difference when it comes to a creation date of around 3 milliseconds. Concurrency, that happens. So whenever you develop things that could lead to something at the almost exact same time, you might want to go with locking approaches. So Johan uses the Symfony lock component. That means when our basic bidding algorithm is started, the first thing it does, it acquires a lock. So that means no other requests can do the same in the meantime as soon as until the lock is released again. Then we proceed with the basic algorithm, and once done, we release that log so that other requests can now do the same. And with that approach, you really have that first come, first served principle with parallel bits in a concurrent system. Chapter 7. We have a problem. So right before go live, the client's QA department found a bug. It's a performance bug in the card. So they've tested a live scenario, and the live scenario includes cards with 1,400 line items. Real story. So Uwe, who's familiar with cards and 500 line items, is indeed surprised. I mean, that's a lot. So what's going on is that the conversion from a CSV file into a full Shopware card takes a massive amount of time, 10 to 15 minutes. So Uwe was like, why didn't we talk about these metrics in our kickoff? Well, seems like that topic was at the end of a very long and exhausting day, and we kind of didn't really talk about it. So lesson learned. Non-functional requirements such as performance, as well as these key metrics, they are now part of every agenda in upcoming meetings. So it's now time to shine for Uwe. As you know, he's quite into Blackfire nowadays. So together with Blackfire and the Symphony Profiler, he logs himself into a room and starts to analyze things. And what he discovers is that one of the major problems with our performance issue is the Shopware B2B suite. But why? Dangl, the data abstraction layer, is an awesome feature and tool. But as soon as events, things grow, more and more data comes in, that could lead to a performance issue, and that was the case in our case. So what happened? All these events and underlying queries were triggered on every single line item, 1,400 times. So together with Shopware, he was able to switch back to plain good old SQL queries, and it's now so much faster. But Joshua says, we still have 1 minute, so that's still a lot. Uwe has another idea. So Shopware persists the card inside the database. So that's a known bottleneck, but for most shops, there's no real impact, except with such big cards. So what he does is, he uses a file-based card and stores that on disk, gets rid of network latency, as well as those serializations into JSON columns. And that is the actual solution, because it's now finally blazing fast. So, community. Shopware did now add the option to use Redis to persist the cards. This did not exist back then when Uwe faced that issue in reality. But the story proves that this was a good move from Shopware, and it's a must-have if you have bigger cards or just a tremendous amount of data. Chapter 8. Go live. So, slide's not okay, but yeah, we made it. Everyone's happy, so after a couple of preparation days, preparing for domain TTLs, 18th, third, and last migration, as well as communications with customers, PIM, ERP system, we were finally able to go live with our new shop, and everyone was happy for now. Chapter 9. It looks good. So a week, 2 weeks ago, we had our release. We were just stopping our usual post monitoring and got back to daily business. When Martin gets a call from our client. So yeah, he's on the phone quite a lot, so he immediately recognizes from the client's voice that something's wrong. So that is the phase in the project where things, and you probably know it, just go weird on the live system for whatever reason. So the hostess monitoring tells us the shop is down. Martin opens the shop. It's working. the home page is working, because that one's cached. So the actual problem is that the database is not reachable. What we have is, investigation tells us that there's a node with 100% CPU usage. That happens for around 5 to 10 minutes, bless you. And this is the database. So, what Martin does, he's quite good into debugging things like that. So he gets access to slow query logs, although that might just be a result of a different problem. But at least it's something to start with. He then uses Tideways to do the same, get the slow requests, again, could be a subsequent problem, and of course, error logs. And all that in combination leads to the fact that this has to do something with storefront routes. More specific, the account pages. So what he does is he logs in as a user, no problem, all good. So he's wondering, does it only affect some accounts? Do they all have one thing in common? Yes, they have. They have a long list of orders. Again, real story. Luckily, our client has such an account as a test account on the production system. So he is able to use that account, log into the system, while, of course, this whole system behaves normally. And there we have it. 40 straight seconds that again lead to a crash or readability problem of the database. So that's indeed the problem. What he does is he creates a replication locally and removes almost all of the data that he figures out. But what did he figure out? So what happens if you log in to an account? You'll be redirected to the account dashboard as an end user. And that shows the last 10 orders. Technically, it fetches the full Shopware order entities, including the state machine history. The database table of the state machine history has 1.6 million entries. So, that's the reason why we locally get rid of almost all that data. And yes, it's better. We now have 10 seconds. So not good at all, still. When he inspects the database table, he figures out there is a JSON column, including the entity ID as well as the version ID. And those fields are being used as lookup references, foreign keys. So let's pause on this. In MySQL, JSON columns, they cannot have a default value. They can't be used as primary keys or referenced as foreign keys or have an index. A secondary index can be used on automatically, virtually generated columns. But in most cases, it's better to use and stick with the retained valued index on a separate field. So what Martin does is, he creates an auto-generated virtual column for the entity ID as well as the version ID. And together with the entity name, he also applies and creates an index. When he opens the query editor and does the same statement, he smiles across his whole face. We now have 20 milliseconds compared to 40 seconds originally. So that is the solution for our performance problem in that case. So the only thing that's necessary to do, or what's left to do, is to update the parts in our source code that still have the foreign keys or work conditions on the original one and replace them with our new auto-generated virtual columns for now. So that means we do have a happy end. And everyone's happy now. So rising together above beyond with a community I could only wish for. So please do not forget, this was just a fictional shop, but it was all based on real stories that did actually happen in that way. And our superheroes, they would now love to share their key takeaways on their topics with you. Let's listen to them.
My key takeaways are that true perfection can never be reached. You can prepare for so much situations, but not for every situation that could happen in production. So the best thing in this case you could do is test with the best possible real data and prepare a good set of tools for logging and inspection. So you are ready when the problem occurs and be able to aggregate all informations to get a solution as fast as possible.
Thinking and testing outside of the original requirements are worth to successfully fulfill a task. Secondly, don't be immediately alarmed and stay calm. There's likely a simple solution. Eventually, although we found a solution, using small open source software requires a technical contact person as much as a big ERP software.
Do the migrations repeatedly, right from the beginning of the project, as well as in between. See how the new shop behaves with the most up-to-date data. You constantly encounter new points that demand your attentions. However, be cautious when modifying migrated data, as subsequent migrations will revert to manual changes. If manual adjustments are necessary, it's better to create a separate copy of migrated data.
So my key takeaways were to pay attention to the seemingly minor details and to keep thinking on your feet. The first one can prevent surprises later on, and the second one allows you to solve requirements seemingly outside of Shopware's comfort zone, but they're still possible with the tools given in its modern tech stack.
So one of the key takeaways on this project is that everything's possible with the tech stack that Shopware 6 is providing, and that we're able to build everything the client wants on Shopware.
My key takeaways? I would say requirements are always very different. Isn't it good that we can reach out to the people from our community and ask them for help? Because as you know, only together we can rise above beyond.
So thank you so much. Thank you for watching. Thank you to Uwe from Kellerkinder, Joshua from Help.com, Johan from Memo, Edin from Webbasiert, and Martin Weinmeier for helping on the story, Niklas for helping on the story. If you are not on the list, I'm really sorry, it doesn't mean anything, we're still buddies. Thanks for Martin for sponsoring everything. Thanks for having me, have some wonderful community days. See you next time.